How's it going, everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac, and I'm here with a video on El Camino, the Breaking Bad or a Breaking Bad movie. And this is a follow-up to the end of Breaking Bad season 5, where we follow Jesse Pinkman, one of the two main characters from Breaking Bad, and we see what happened to him after the ending in Felina, in the final episode of Breaking Bad season 5. Man, I said that so robotic. It was it was amazing. But yeah, I'm gonna be talking about my thoughts, opinions on all that on this movie, and without further ado, let's get into it. So, let me just say right now that this movie is great. This movie is a wholehearted 8 out of 10. It's not a 10 for me because I can't say like it wowed me. It brought me out of my seat. It was crazy, but it was great. It was good to great. If I had to rate it, its peak was definitely a 9, and its worst it was an 8. Like the baseline itself is an 8. So then I guess I should give it like an 8.5 then. Yeah. You know what? Yeah. I'll give it an 8.5. This movie definitely deserves it. But considering the fact that we're following from the ending of Breaking Bad, which I think is great, and seeing Jesse, it's like this movie could have been two extra Breaking Bad episodes, but it had from what it seems like, the budget of a movie though. So there was a little more time, or not a little more time, but more like that quality of a movie, even though the Breaking Bad episodes when they were really good were movie quality, it was cohesive and it could flow really well. So it wasn't broken up by the ending of an episode and the beginning of an episode. It was continuous. So we just got one really long Breaking Bad episode and it was worth it. It was great. I love El Camino for that. We just get a straight line through to see what happened with Jesse because it doesn't feel like somebody else wrote it. Vince Gilligan made this movie with Aaron Paul, and we get it definitely shows. It shows how good of a writer and producer he is because man, this feels like Breaking Bad. There's nothing wrong with this. It's just we don't see any different shots from anybody else. Like, let's say Walt and Jesse were talking in one scene, right, in the lab. Like, let's say episode 3, and then you go to Hank, and you see him talking to Marie or whatever, and then you see Skylar, and then you go back to Walt and Hank. There's none of that. There's no cutting away. It's just Jesse, and you cut away to other scenes of Jesse, which is great, because we need to know what happened to Jesse Pinkman and what's gonna happen to him. And I like it. I like it a lot because considering how this movie ends, where you have Jesse in the beginning following after, or not following after, directly after what happened in Felina, and then seeing what was this dude's name, Badger and Skinny Pete after so long, and then them taking care of him for a little bit, and then Jesse trying to get the money that Todd had stashed away before he killed him. And he goes to his apartment, he finds the cash, he meets some people, and he realizes one of them he already knew from beforehand. And then we go to the guy who could give you a new identity, Ed something. I forgot it. Gallagher, whatever his name is, Ed something. And Jesse doesn't have enough money because Jesse didn't pay him for the first time that he went to go erase his identity. So he owes him double the amount of what he would usually have. And he almost had it, but he was missing 1,800 more because Skinny Pete and Badger covered him for a little bit more. And now he has to go erase his identity. So he goes to the person that he met in Todd's apartment because they were also looking for Todd's money, and they found out that all the people in Todd's camp are dead, so they went to go find the money. And they met Jesse there. They were about to kill him, but then they split the money evenly. And Jesse goes back to that guy to ask for 1,800 more for a favor. And the guy is like, "Yo, let's make a deal. Western Showdown right now for all of my money. If I win, I take yours. If you win, you take mine's. All in, no money in, or all money in, no money out." And they do it. Jesse wins. He goes back to Ed, and then he travels on to Alaska, which is a place him and Mike talked about before they went to go tell Walt about being out of the operation. And throughout this entire thing, you have Jesse having flashbacks of Todd, of his time being in a cage with Uncle Jack or whatever. You have his time with Jane. You have some scenes with what's this dude's name? With Walt himself, and just seeing how he knows some of these things and how these things influence his decisions right now. And one of my favorite scenes, which was the scene that I talked about in the finale or the season 5 finale of Breaking Bad, was him um going to see Skinny Pete and Badger and how they help him out. Badger being less reluctant, but you have Skinny Pete being the GOAT here, like actually being the GOAT, having him orchestrate this entire plan, him being mad smart. Like it shows Skinny Pete and Badger aren't just junkies, they're not meth heads. They're actually street knowledgeable, you know. There's a reason why Jesse hired them to help him out. And if Combo were there, I definitely know he would have helped out Jesse because man, he has some loyal friends, man. They always show up for him and hang out with him whenever he was down and out. And Jesse wouldn't talk about his problems, but I know for certain that they would have helped him out for sure. And they did, and they proved it. Like we finally got to see what was under Skinny Pete's hat, bro. He's blonde, like the Aryan slash Mexican race, bro. He's actually crazy. But Jesse's friends and how loyal they are to him actually tugged at my heartstrings. Because when my friend told me like, "Oh, you're gonna love that scene," he wasn't wrong. I loved it. It was amazing. And the fact that you know everybody who was at Jesse's house, like let's say I think season 4 or something, or season 5, when there was just all those drunkards and junkies, all of them in his house, and they were just partying. The only people that cared were Badger and Skinny Pete. They were the ones that were always there for him. And to see that they weren't just along because of the money, they weren't there when he was up and not when he was down. Like it really just it adds so much character to characters that we thought were just, you know, that were just jokes, that were just comic or comedic relief. So that that's really good. We get to see more of the guy who erases your identity. That was also cool. Get to learn more about Todd, who it sucks, right? Todd would have been a better person if he just wasn't under Jack's like tutelage, I guess. He's a normal guy. He's legit a normal guy, but then you have that dark underbelly that is him killing people for the business. And it's not like he's doing it mercilessly, or he's like, what's that dude's name? Like Tuco or anybody like that. Nah, he genuinely feels bad for doing it. He just does it out of necessity, not because he enjoys it or because he wants to kill somebody. He just does it because he has to, and that was instilled in him by his uncle and their business. And if that wasn't the case, he would have never met Jesse and Walt. He would have never tortured him, and things would have been good. But no, he like it's bad, right? It's bad because Todd is torturing Jesse, but he doesn't want to. He generally does not want to. He's doing it because it's the business, right? He needs to keep him there so they can keep cooking meth. And Todd's the one that genuinely cares for Jesse, even after he punched him after killing that kid in season 5. And that's just so weird to me because Todd is crazy. He's actually crazy, but he's a normal guy. He's scarier than most people because he's just a normal guy who he looks out for Jesse. He gave him Ben and Jerry's. He even when Jesse pointed a gun at him, he wasn't angry. He was calming him down. And even when he took away the gun from Jesse, he didn't get angry or he didn't punch him or he didn't detain him. He comforted him. And that just scares me so much. Like on one hand, he cares, but on the other hand, he doesn't. So it's just like what's real to what isn't with him. I don't get it. But one thing I did want to talk about, the music in this was great. The final scenes with with Jesse going to Alaska and just him looking so much better. So much better than what he did in the beginning of the movie. It's like in the beginning of the movie he looks like McJuggernuggets when he was doing those videos. And then at the end of the movie he looks great. He looks way better compared to what he did. And he got a happy ending for the most part. Even though he lost so much, he definitely lost a lot more than Walt. I can say that for sure. Walt got the worst ending, and that's because it all caught back up to him. His lies, his schemes, his plots, him killing so many people, him blowing up a elderly home, all the drug business, his reasons for doing the drug business, it all called back up to him. Him doing the meth business was him basically descending into madness, into evil, and that's what was waiting for him. A, a bad ending. Like his ending wasn't the greatest, is what I'm saying. In terms of he didn't he died. He died, but he did go out in his own terms. He didn't die of the cancer. He didn't die in jail. He didn't rot. He he died saving Jesse and getting revenge on the people that wronged him. And well, quote unquote wronged him. Gretchen and whatever his name is. Elliot. There you go. Elliot. I finally remember his name. Elliot. They didn't wrong him. More like Walt just gave up the company willingly. But other people in the drug business who actually did wrong him. He got revenge on them. Jack, Lydia, Todd. It was going to be Jesse, but then he realized Jesse didn't do anything. He didn't wrong him, even though Jesse did some horrible things to Walt, like the gas and all that, and then leading him to Walt in the desert. Obviously, he didn't know what was going on, but in hindsight, it's not the greatest. But that was because of Walt himself. Walt pushed him to this point. Walt emotionally manipulated him to keep going. But then when all things were done, he like he couldn't do anything. Jesse was just stuck in that perpetual like cycle of being manipulated, and it sucks. But I'm just rambling at this point. Basically, Jesse's ending compared to Walt's, he definitely deserves it. Jesse deserves this ending for sure. He's been through so much, losing two of his girlfriends, not being able to live with his family anymore, being ousted by them basically, being a wanted man, like only rivaling Walt in terms of how bad the heat got for him, and just not being able to live a normal life, losing his friends because he can't live with them anymore. Like he he has to start fresh. And Walt gave that up, but Jesse didn't. He needs this. Jesse doesn't have cancer. Jesse is young. Jesse has a future ahead of him now that he restarted. There's so much waiting for him. And I think he genuinely deserves it. Jesse is the most volatile, important, and great character in Breaking Bad. Only second to Walt himself. And I'm glad that they treated him with so much respect. Like he wasn't just second fiddle to Walt, he was his partner. That's the difference you can tell between how Jack treated him, how Gustavo treated him, how Todd treated him, and how Walt treated him. They were equals, and that will never change. And one thing I did want to say is a comment that one of my friends left in the comment section on the last video, because it's something that I should mention. So he was talking about how Walt was you can notice the descent into what he's really doing it for. How Skylar at the end of or during Felina was like, I swear, if you mention you do this for your family one more time, and then Walt himself was like, no, I did it for me. I did it because I enjoyed it. I was good at it. And you he was talking about how that was the whole reason all along, how Walt was always that selfish, how he went on that ride along to see what was going on, and that desire that he was 50, or he was 50, he just contracted cancer and he was dying. He didn't do much, he didn't amount to much. He sold the company and he thought that he was wronged, but he wasn't. He sold it willingly. He sold it for less money than it was worth at the end of the day, and that sucks. But that that that's just his luck. Legit, there's Gretchen and Elliot didn't do anything. We never learned the reason as to why he sold it. He just did. They amicably sold it, and he became a chemistry teacher, and he didn't amount to much in that legal life as a civvy. But as Heisenberg, he kept amounting to more and more, making more and more money. He became the best at making meth. And then he brought Jesse along with him, who also didn't amount to much, who was just a drug dealer. in the street before that, and they became the greatest. They became the greatest meth cookers, engineers, I guess. I don't really know what to call it. That Albuquerque and frankly the U.S. has ever seen. And it wasn't a good business, but it was his business, and he became the best at it. They both did. Jesse didn't have the same motive, but that was Walt. That was Walt's reason. Jesse didn't have a motive to or a reason to keep going. Once like they got like at 100K like with Gus, once they got to that point of making money, they were set for life. They could have just extended the deals, kept going, and kept it secretive, you know. But once got or Walt got greedy, you know, Jesse didn't have a reason to stay except to protect Mr. White for most of the time. And then when things got worse, you know, it all came crashing down. So, you know, all of his greed was the reason from the beginning, and it was the reason for his downfall. Even Mike says it. Your pride and your ego and your greed. Like things could have been okay. Obviously, Walt was doing bad things, but they would have been good financially if he was doing it for his family. And actually, he mentioned a point where he would have taken Elliot and Gretchen's money if it was for the family. He wouldn't have had to do the drug business at all because they were offering him. You know, I think it was like season 2 or season at the end of season 1 where they offered the money, but he could have taken it for sure. And he was just talking about that in the comments that he couldn't live with his mistake and that his goal of making something with his life at the end of it was worth more than his family. Quote from him for the most part, just interpolated a little bit, but that he was talking about that in the comments, and I was reading it, and just like man, that that definitely clears some things up from what I was thinking. Like, did Walt ever care about his family? Because the way I was thinking of it was like he did, but then his greed took over. And now I know, like, or now I noticed it with looking back on it with that perspective, like, nah, it's always been greed. Walt's always been greedy, and you can tell because he broke bad, and it didn't catch up to him until Ozymandias, and it's crazy to see. It's actually crazy to see. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that because it was a really good comment, and it definitely was insightful and enlightened me on some things that I didn't see when looking back on it after just recording the video. So I want to talk about that, you know. Thank y'all for watching as always. After this, it's gonna be Better Call Saul, and I'll get to that, you know, when we get to it. I might take a break, like watch some other things, read some things, but Better Call Saul will be coming, so don't worry about that. Thank y'all for watching though, as I say it again. Hope y'all enjoyed. As always, if you watched, liked, or subscribed, or whatever you do, it doesn't matter to me. The fact that people are watching in general means the world to me. And as always, I'll check y'all out. And until next time, I guess, peace. I messed up my intro. I think I had a brain fart. But yeah, thank you all for the great, insightful comments. Always appreciate them. And hope y'all have a great rest of your day. Peace.